You think you know what betrayal looks like? A text message at 2 a.m. lipstick. That's amateur. Try the dead silence on the phone as the spa receptionist confirms the $5,000 charge isn't fraud. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Marcus and Miss Chloe are in our Serenity Suite right now. And where are you buried in receipts, trying to save his struggling startup? The shock isn't just that he's cheating. It's that you're paying for it. My name is Alara, and I am 34 years old. Professionally, I am a senior forensic accountant at Apex Financial Solutions. I'm the person they call when the numbers don't just look wrong, they feel wrong. I am renowned for finding the digital Kim in the digital haystack, the ghosts in the financial machine. My life is built on order. My home office in Austin, Texas, is a testament to that. At least my half is. It was 11 p.m. My side of the desk was pristine monitor perfectly centered, keyboard free of dust, my ledgers balanced. His side, my husband Marcus's side, was a disaster. Marcus is 36, the brilliant, chaotic founder of the tech startup InnovateX. His desk was a frantic mess of overdue bills, crumpled napkins with ideas scrawled on them, and red-stamped final notices. I was awake at this hour not because I was working for Apex, but because I was trying to save us. I was deep in our joint tax documents, trying to find every possible deduction to shield us from the massive tax bill looming over us. A bill caused entirely by Marcus's creative mismanagement. He saw finances as suggestions, not rules. I was trying to spin his disastrous spending into legitimate business expenses, trying to keep the IRS from leveling the company he had poured our lives into. I was cross-referencing the InnovateX business account statements when my eyes snagged on a line item, Verdant Springs Retreat. The charge was $5,000. It was coded as Team Development Expense. I nearly laughed. A cold, sharp sound in the quiet room. His team was himself and Maya, the CTO, a woman who hadn't taken a day off in 3 years and who I knew was currently struggling to make payroll. $5,000 for development when he'd just told me they were running on fumes. It was impossible. It had to be identity theft. Someone must have skimmed the company card. I'm an analyst. When I find an anomaly, I verify it. I pulled up the spa's website. It was all waterfalls, whispering bamboo, and couples packages. I dialed the number, my professional demeanor clicking into place. A bored, quiet voice answered. Verdant Springs Retreat. Hello, I said, my voice crisp and level. My name is Alara. I'm calling from InnovateX. I'm reviewing our corporate accounts and I see a charge for $5,000. I'm concerned it may be fraudulent, as we have no record of authorizing it. I heard the polite tapping of a keyboard. I do see the charge, ma'am. For the Serenity Suite weekend package, the Serenity Suite, I repeated, my blood slowing. As I said, I believe this is identity theft. Can you confirm no one from our company is actually there? There was a pause. The receptionist's bored tone shifted, taking on the weary patience of someone who has handled this call before. Ma'am, the charge is definitely not fraud. It was prepaid. Our system shows Mr. Marcus and a Miss Chloe checked into the suite this afternoon. Chloe! The name landed in the silence of the room like a physical blow. Mr. Marcus and Miss Chloe. Not colleagues. Not a team. The silence stretched, but I did not allow my voice to break. My vision tunneled, focusing on the stack of his unpaid invoices. I was here, drowning in his financial chaos while he was in a luxury suite. Thank you, I said. My voice was terrifyingly steady. You have confirmed the information I needed. I ended the call. I did not move for perhaps 10 seconds. I just stared at the screen. My hand, acting of its own accord, moved to the mouse and clicked open our shared calendar. This weekend. Marcus had blocked it off 3 weeks ago. The event colored in an urgent red. The title, Emergency Investor Summit, Dallas. Dallas. The spa was 200 miles in the other direction. I should have cried. I should have thrown his disorganized stacks of paper across the room. I didn't. The emotional part of my brain seemed to just switch off. and the forensic accountant took over. The shock wasn't grief, it was data. I closed the tax software, I minimized the spa website. I opened a new, blank Excel spreadsheet. The cursor blinked rhythmically in cell A1. I went to Save As. I typed in the file name Project Liquidation. I then reopened the tax software. I navigated to the Start page. I selected Create a New Return. When the prompt asked for filing status, I did not select Married Filing Jointly. I selected Married Filing Separately. I entered my income, my deductions, my assets. I meticulously and efficiently separated my financial existence from his. I finished my personal return in 45 minutes. I clicked E-File. The IRS confirmation popped up almost immediately. Then, I returned to the empty spreadsheet. Project Liquidation. I clicked back into cell A1. I began to enter the data. Sleep was irrelevant. Sleep was for people who were not actively being systemically defrauded by their own husbands. My house was silent except for the click of my keyboard. I was no longer a wife. I was the auditor. This was my library. This was my strength. I moved from my desk to his. His laptop was closed, the InnovateX sticker peeling at the corner. I opened it. The login screen glowed. I typed the password. Alara and Marcus 1. The number 1, as in, we were one. The irony tasted like acid. I didn't guess where to look. I knew. I bypassed his user-facing files and went straight to the system cache, the browser history archives, the deleted logs. Amateurs look for emails. I look for the digital fingerprints the system tries to hide. It took me less than 10 minutes to find the routing number. A small, unfamiliar bank based in the Cayman Islands. He had linked to it once, 3 months ago, probably in the dead of night, to check the balance, and his browser had saved a single data packet. It was all I needed. I accessed the portal. He had used the same password. The stupidity of it was almost as offensive as the betrayal. The company was not struggling. The company was a siphon. InnovateX wasn't a startup. It was a wash. I watched, my face illuminated only by the screen, as I saw the wire transfers, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, money from investors, money from his parents' second mortgage, money from the payroll account, all flowing in and then immediately out, into this hidden account. The bleeding was catastrophic, and it was all going to one place. I followed the money. The Cayman account was making regular automated payments, $2,700 a month, a property management company in downtown Austin. I cross-referenced the company. They managed one building, the Azure, a high-rise with a rooftop pool and valet service, a place Marcus had scoffed at as being for new money idiots. He had been paying the lease on a unit there for 8 months. And then there was the name, Chloe. Monthly transfers to a Chloe Vickers for consulting services. $5,000 here, $10,000 there. The sums were staggering. The name from the spa. I opened a new, secure browser tab. I searched her name. She was not hard to find. Chloe Vickers, 25 years old, a lifestyle influencer, 100,000 followers. Her feed was a curated stream of perfect avocado toast, designer handbags, and rooftop cocktails. She was everything I was not. She was frivolous, public, and, it seemed, incredibly well-funded. I scrolled, my thumb moving with metronomic precision. Each click was another small, sharp piece of data. A photo of her at Uchi, a restaurant Marcus told me we couldn't afford, a photo of her holding a new designer handbag, the same one he'd called obnoxious when I'd pointed it out in a magazine. And then I stopped. My breath hitched. I knew that throw pillow. I knew that exact shade of gray on the wall. I knew that cat. The photo was from 3 weeks ago. Chloe, pouting at the camera, was curled up on my living room sofa. My sofa. She was wearing a silk robe, and our cat, Odysseus, was purring in her lap. The caption, just chilling at my place. So blessed, boss life self-made. I had been in Chicago that weekend, a grueling business trip closing a deal for Apex. I'd come home exhausted, and he had told me he'd missed me. He hadn't just cheated on me. He hadn't just stolen from his investors. He had brought her into my home. He had let her lounge on my furniture and hold my cat, and then she had posted it for the world, claiming my life as her own. I stared at the caption. Self-made. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Screenshot. Save. File name Exhibit A. I took screenshots of every post, every transaction, every bank statement. I documented the entire digital trail of his parallel life. I saved it all to a military-grade encrypted external hard drive. By 3 a.m., I had a complete file. I knew about the apartment, the money, the woman. But there was one more piece. His calendar. Not the shared one, but his private InnovateX calendar. It was filled with meetings, but one item was highlighted. In 2 weeks, the InnovateX Investor Gala. I found the event planning documents. He was trying to raise a Series B round of funding. He was going to stand on a stage, in front of his parents and his partners, and ask for more money. Money to bleed into the Cayman account. Money to fund his life with her. I unplugged the hard drive. I shut down his laptop. I walked back to my desk, sat down, and opened my project liquidation spreadsheet. The gala was his deadline. It was now mine. I had the external data, the bank accounts, the social media, the apartment. But to understand the full scope of the fraud, I needed to see the internal machine. I needed access to InnovateX's private servers, the correspondence, the real unvarnished financials that Marcus hid from everyone, including his co-founder. Maya, aged 30, was the co-founder and chief technology officer of InnovateX. She was the actual genius behind the company, the one who had written the revolutionary code they were building the platform on. Marcus was the face, the charismatic salesman who handled the money and the investors. He was the rainmaker, she was the architect. I had met her a dozen times at company parties and dinners. She was quiet, intense, and lived on a diet of black coffee and protein bars. She didn't just believe in the company, she had built it from the ground up. And I knew, from the shredded payroll documents on Marcus's desk, that she was just as much a victim as I was. I couldn't just call her and tell her that her business partner was a con man who was sleeping with an influencer using company funds. Maya's loyalty was to the company, to her life's work. I had to approach this as a financial problem, not a personal one. I sent her a text at 7 a.m. Hi Maya, it's Ilara. I know you're swamped, but I'm finalizing the corporate tax amendments and I have some serious questions about the expense reports Marcus filed. Could you meet me for coffee this morning? I need your signature on a few things. She replied in 30 seconds. He's not responding to me either. Yes, Cafe Medici in 10 minutes. She was already there when I arrived, hunched over her laptop, her fingers flying. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes that her glasses couldn't hide. Ilara, thanks for coming, she said, not looking up from her screen. What's the problem? Marcus is supposed to be handling all the financials for the gala, but he's completely dark, and our payroll account is short again. He keeps saying the investor money is in escrow or some other buzzword. I sat down, placing my leather briefcase on the table. I had come prepared. That's actually what I'm here to talk about. Maya, not the taxes. She finally looked up. What do you mean? I made a strategic choice. The affair was a knife. The money was the lever. I had to use the lever first. Maya, I'm going to be direct, as one professional to another. I am not here as Marcus's wife. I am here as a forensic accountant. In my review of the company's books, I have found severe non-accidental irregularities. Her brow furrowed. Irregularities, like what he missed a payment, like misallocation of funds, I said, my voice low and even. I've found several large expenses that were coded incorrectly, expenses that, frankly, could jeopardize the company's solvency. Her posture stiffened. The loyalty kicked in. Ilara, Marcus is a big-picture guy. He's not an accountant. He's probably just sloppy. It's my job to build the tech. It's his to fund it. We're about to close a huge round. We're fine. Are you? I asked. You just told me you can't make payroll. The money is coming, she insisted, more to herself than to me. The gala will fix everything. I opened my briefcase. I did not pull out the photos of Chloe. I did not pull out the spa receipt. I pulled out a single, redacted bank statement. I found a secondary account, I said, sliding it across the table. One you're not a signatory on. I had removed the Cayman Islands bank name. I had removed any personal identifiers. All it showed was a list of dates and 2 columns. Column A, transfer from InnovateX payroll account. Column B, transfer to undisclosed account. I pointed a single, steady finger at the first line item. You told me you first missed payroll on May 10th. Is that correct? She nodded, her eyes scanning the paper. On May 9th, I said. Marcus transferred $50,000 out of the company and into this account. And again in June. And twice in July. Every single time you had a payroll shortage. It was preceded by a massive withdrawal by him. Maya went pale. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the numbers. She was a woman of data, just like me. And the data was undeniable. He wouldn't, she whispered. He's just moving it for cash flow, to protect it. He's bleeding his own company dry. Maya, I said, my voice sharpening. He's not sloppy. He's stealing. From you. From your employees. From his investors. She stared at the paper for a long, silent minute. The fight drained out of her, replaced by a cold, quiet rage. Her eyes, when they finally met mine, were no longer exhausted. They were like steel. I'm the CTO, she said, her voice barely audible. I have admin-level access to every server, every email account, every line of code. He can't hide from me. She pulled her laptop toward her. You need the internal servers, the email archives, the raw data logs. I nodded. I'm giving you a backdoor key, she said, her fingers typing a rapid, complex string of commands. I'll create a ghost profile. You will have access to everything, his email, his logs, everything. Find out how deep this rabbit hole goes. Alara, find it all. She shut the laptop. He's not just your husband, Alara. He's my partner, and he is going to burn for this. The alliance was formed, not over a shared personal betrayal, but a financial one, which, I was learning, was infinitely stronger. The ghost profile Maya created worked perfectly. I wasn't a Lara wife. I was sysadmin temp 09. I had the keys to the entire digital kingdom, and Marcus had no idea I was even inside the castle. I went straight to his email server and the financial ledgers. The affair was a personal wound, but the fraud was a professional puzzle. I started with Chloe. I searched her name in the payment system. Chloe Vickers. Over the past 12 months, InnovateX had paid her $123,000 in consulting fees. The invoices were attached. They were laughable. A single page, created from a default template, with one line item each: brand strategy, social outreach consultation, synergy marketing. Each one was personally approved by Marcus. He was funneling money directly from his investors, past his co-founder, and into the bank account of his mistress. This was systematic, blatant embezzlement, but it was just the appetizer. This didn't explain the sheer scale of the financial bleed, and it didn't explain the desperation. Why risk everything for this gala? Why was he trying to raise more money if he was just going to steal it? The answer had to be in the tech. Maya's code was the one supposedly valuable asset. I navigated to the root directories of the source code. I had Maya's notes. I looked at the core files, the foundational blocks of the platform, and I saw it. The creation timestamp. The core algorithm, the secret sauce of InnovateX, had a file creation date of November 14th, 2020. InnovateX wasn't founded until March of 2021. My blood ran cold. The code was older than the company. Where did it come from? I accessed Marcus's archived personal drive. He had folders for everything, all meticulously mislabeled. Old college papers. Tax receipts 2018. I opened one. It wasn't tax receipts. It was his entire employee exit file from his previous job. CyberSec Dynamics, a major player in the cybersecurity field. He had been a mid-level project manager there. I ran a differential comparison. I took the core file from the InnovateX server and ran it against the project files from his CyberSec folder. It wasn't just similar. It wasn't just inspired by it. It was a one-to-one copy. He had stolen it. The realization hit me with the force of a physical impact. Marcus had never intended to build a company. Maya had been writing code. Yes. But she was building on a stolen foundation. Marcus wasn't a founder. He was a thief. InnovateX was nothing but a shell. A legitimate-looking corporate entity built around a multi-million-dollar piece of stolen intellectual property. The gala. The investors. It all became sickeningly clear. I cross-referenced the names on the gala's VIP list. They weren't venture capitalists. They were executives from rival cybersecurity firms, the direct competitors of CyberSec Dynamics. He wasn't trying to raise a round of funding. He was hosting an auction. The gala was his final exit. He was planning to sell the stolen IP to the highest bidder, disguised as a corporate acquisition. He would sell the company from under Maya, his parents, and everyone else. He would liquidate the assets the stolen code blamed the company's market failure on his brilliant but unstable CTO, and then disappear. I searched his personal email, the one he thought I didn't know about. I searched for flights. There it was, a confirmed booking, purchased 2 days ago. Austin Bergstrom to Owen Roberts International Airport, Grand Cayman, a first-class ticket. One way. The departure date was the morning after the gala. He was going to burn everything to the ground and walk away with millions, leaving Maya to face the lawsuits and his parents to face their ruined retirement. He wasn't just leaving me. He was liquidating his entire life. I looked at the picture of us on my desk. The smiling, charming man I had married. He wasn't real. He was a shell, just like his company. I closed the final browser tab. The investigation was over. The sentencing was about to begin. I picked up my phone. I didn't call his parents. I didn't call Maya. I looked up the number for the top corporate fraud litigator in the state of Texas. I was done being his wife, and I was done being his accountant. It was time to be his executioner. He returned on Sunday night, performing his role as the exhausted road warrior. He dropped his weekend bag by the door with a theatrical sigh. "Ilara, I'm home," he called out. I was in the kitchen, calmly wiping down an already clean counter. "In here, Marcus." He walked in, loosening his tie. He was tanned. "God, I am wrecked," he said, trying to sound weary. "These Dallas VCs are vultures, but I think I made progress. I really think the gala is going to be a home run." He was a terrible actor. He was too energized, too bright. He had the glow of a man who had spent 48 hours in a Serenity suite. "That's wonderful, honey," I said, my voice flat. He handed me a small, flimsy plastic bag. "I grabbed this for you at the airport." It was a Dallas snow globe, one of those cheap, tacky things with plastic glitter. He hadn't even been to Dallas. He must have bought this weeks ago, a premeditated prop for his lie. "How are you?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I stiffened. "You look tired." "Just finishing up the taxes," I said, leaning away. "It's been a long weekend." "My hero," he murmured, kissing the side of my head. The smell of chlorine and some faint floral perfume not mine clung to him. "I promise, after this gala, no more stress. We'll be on a beach, just you and me." "I'm counting on it," I said, sliding the snow globe onto the counter. "Go get some rest. You earned it." He smiled, oblivious, and headed for the shower. I picked up the snow globe and dropped it directly into the trash. The next morning, I dressed for work in one of my best suits. Marcus was in the kitchen, humming, making coffee. He was in his big week mode, radiating a false, manic energy. "Big day, honey?" he asked. "Actually, yes," I said, snapping my briefcase shut. "I have a new client, a big one. They're insisting on an off-site preliminary meeting. Kind of a strange request, but they're the client." Oh yeah, where to? He asked, pouring his coffee. A place called Verdant Springs Retreat, I said. They want to discuss their books in a relaxed environment before they commit. You ever heard of it? I watched his hand. The coffee cup clattered against the counter, splashing hot liquid over his fingers. He flinched, but not just from the heat. His face went bone white. It was the first genuine, uncontrolled emotion I had seen from him in months. He recovered in a split second, masking it with a curse as he ran his hand under the faucet. Damn it! Verdant Springs? Yeah, I think I've heard of it. Isn't that one of those super high-end places? Nice work. That's a great sign. Alara, a great sign. I thought so, I said, adjusting my cuff. I'll probably be late. Don't wait up. I walked out. I didn't drive to the spa. Not yet. I drove to my new lawyer's office to sign the finalized fraud report and the petition for divorce. Then, I drove to Verdant Springs. It was exactly as I pictured. Obnoxiously serene. Water features whispered everywhere. I did not go to the relaxation lounge. I went straight to the front desk. The same receptionist from the phone call was there. Her name tag read Jessica. She looked up, her bored expression fixed in place. Welcome to Verdant Springs. How may I help you? Hi, Jessica, I said, offering a tight, professional smile. My name is Alara. I spoke with you on Friday night. From InnovateX, her eyes widened in recognition. The guilt was immediate and obvious. I am so sorry about that, I said, leaning in conspiratorially. My husband, Mr. Marcus, is an absolute organizational disaster. It turns out the charge was for him, but his coding was all wrong, and now I'm trying to untangle his corporate card. He's impossible. Oh, she said, visibly relaxing. Men, right. Right, I said, laughing a dry, empty laugh. Look, I hate to ask, but to submit this properly, I need a fully itemized receipt. The one in our system is just a summary page. Could you possibly print me the detailed folio for his stay, the one showing all the room charges? Otherwise, accounting is going to have my head. She hesitated, looking at her monitor. I'm really not supposed to. I know, I said, lowering my voice. But he's trying to close a huge deal, and he's so stressed, and if I can just fix this one thing for him, it would be a lifesaver. It was for the Serenity Suite, for Marcus and Chloe. I said her name. I let it hang in the air. Jessica made her decision. The sisterhood of dealing with difficult men, or maybe just the guilt from our phone call. Of course, just one moment. The printer whirred. She handed me 3 pages of pristine, detailed charges. You're a star, Jessica, I said. I didn't look at it until I was back in my car. My hands were shaking, not with sadness, but with rage. Page 1, the $5,000 Serenity Suite package. Page 2, couples deep tissue massages. Champagne service, $400 bottles, 3 of them. Room service charges that amounted to more than my monthly car payment. Page 3, a single charge from the on-site boutique. Levion Jewelers, a purchase for $4,800. The memo line, added by the jeweler, platinum diamond tennis necklace. The charge had been posted directly to the InnovateX business account. I pulled up Instagram on my phone. I went to Chloe's profile. Her most recent post, from just 2 hours ago, was a close-up, a self-care selfie, thanking the universe for her glow. And there, sparkling against her tanned skin, was the necklace. He hadn't even waited to give it to her. He had paid for his mistress's jewelry with his parents' retirement money. I sat in my car for a long, silent minute. I put the receipt into my briefcase, filing it under exhibits. I picked up one of my pens. It was a heavy, silver pen engraved with the Apex Financial Solutions logo. I walked back inside. Jessica was busy with another guest. Oh, Jessica, I called out, waving. I forgot to thank you. She looked up and smiled. I smiled back. Accidentally, dropped my engraved pen onto her reception desk, right next to her keyboard, and walked out without it. Have a wonderful day. I wanted her to see it. I wanted her to remember my firm's name. I wanted her to know that an accountant had been there. I didn't leave the spa. I walked back to my car, put my briefcase in the trunk, and returned to the front desk. I paid for a full-day pass. I was an accountant, and I was now treating Chloe as an asset. And assets need to be audited. I knew her habits from her Instagram feed. She was here almost daily. Her posts about detoxing and finding her center were a constant. She wasn't here for a special occasion. This was her office. I changed into one of the spa's white robes. I sat in the relaxation lounge, a sterile, hushed room with chaise lounges and cucumber-infused water. I drank the water. I waited. I was good at waiting. I can look at a spreadsheet for 8 hours without blinking. I can certainly wait for a 25-year-old influencer to show up for her afternoon tea. At 3:15, she walked in. She was exactly as her photos depicted, flawlessly made up, even in a spa. She moved with an unearned confidence, as if the world was her personal photo op. And there it was, glittering against the white of her spa robe, the diamond necklace. My necklace. Paid for by my company, my work, my sacrifice. She didn't see me. She drifted to the tea station, selected a cup, and settled into a lounge chair by the window, phone in hand, already angling for a selfie. I let her get comfortable. I let her take a sip of her tea. Then I stood up and walked over. I sat in the chaise lounge directly facing hers. "Hello, Chloe." She looked up, startled, annoyed at the interruption. Her eyes scanned my face. No recognition. I was just another, older, tired-looking woman in a robe. "Hi," she said, with that upward inflection that means, "Who are you and why are you talking to me?" "I'm Alara," I said. My voice was calm, almost friendly. "I'm Marcus's wife. It's just such a coincidence to run into you here." The cucumber tea went down the wrong way. She choked, a wet, gasping cough. Her face went from pale to red. She sputtered, wiping her mouth, the influencer mask shattering. I don't know," she stammered, trying to regain her composure. "You must be mistaken. I don't know any Marcus." I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Please don't. It's embarrassing for both of us. I'm not here to fight you. Chloe, I'm not going to pull your hair. I am an accountant." I held up my phone, which I had been holding in my pocket. "I like numbers. I find they're much more honest than people, and my numbers tell me a very interesting story." I pulled up the file. Project liquidation. I turned the screen to her. It was the spreadsheet, the $123,000 in consulting fees, the $5,000 spa weekend, the $4,800 necklace. Her eyes widened, all the fake confidence evaporating. She recognized the spreadsheet. She recognized the numbers. She immediately shifted from lying to defending. It was pathetic. "He loves me," she snapped, her voice a harsh whisper. "He said his marriage was over. He said you two were just roommates, that you were cold and just a number cruncher. He said you only cared about money." The accusation was so profoundly, spectacularly wrong that I laughed. It was a single, sharp, cold laugh. "He said I cared about money," I repeated, leaning forward. "He said that Chloe, he's not just paying for your apartment, he's paying for it with money he stole from his investors. He's paying for that necklace you're wearing with money he stole from his own parents." "That's a lie," she said. "Is it?" I swiped on my phone. "He's using you, Chloe. You're not his partner. You're an expense. You're a line item on the same spreadsheet as his spa days and his luxury car lease. He's liquidating the entire company, selling off stolen technology, and he is planning to disappear. He's taking me with him," she said, but her voice faltered. It was a question. "Is he?" I said. "He's an international fugitive. Chloe, do you really think he's going to complicate his escape?" I swiped one more time. The final exhibit. "This is his flight itinerary, Austin to Grand Cayman. The day after the gala. It's a one-way ticket. I zoomed in. Look closely. One ticket. Just one. Under his name. The color drained from her face. This was a truth she couldn't filter, a reality she couldn't curate. The boss life was a complete fraud. She wasn't his future. She was the person he was going to leave behind to take the fall. She was the living, breathing, diamond-wearing evidence of his crimes. She stared at the screen, her world collapsing. She was just a 25-year-old girl who had believed a con man. I leaned back. My voice was no longer hard. It was strategic. He's a thief, Chloe. And when this all comes out, and it will, the FBI is going to look at those bank statements. They're going to see over $100,000 in payments to you. They're not going to see a duped girlfriend. They're going to see a co-conspirator. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with genuine terror. I am giving you an opportunity, I said, my voice low and precise. You are going to help me expose him at that gala. You are going to provide me with every text, every email, every recording you have of him admitting to his fraud. You will do exactly as I say. In exchange, my lawyers, the best corporate fraud lawyers in Texas, will frame your testimony as that of a victimized, manipulated, and cooperating witness. You will be a duped victim, Chloe, not a co-conspirator. That is the only deal you are going to get. I stood up. You have my number. I expect to hear from you by 5 p.m. I left her in the quiet room, alone with her cucumber tea, the diamond necklace, and the ruins of her self-made life. Chloe's first text message arrived at 4:59 p.m., 1 minute before my deadline. It was not a message. It was a file attachment, a single compressed zip folder. I didn't need to open it to know what it contained. She was in. The next 10 days were a masterclass in compartmentalization. By day, I was Alara, the supportive, stressed wife, helping her husband plan the single biggest night of his career. By night, I was the lead architect of his destruction in a 3-way conference call with his co-founder and his mistress. He's a narcissist, I explained to Maya and Chloe on our first encrypted call. He can't imagine we're smart enough to catch him. We are going to use that. We are not going to be emotional. We are going to be meticulous. Chloe was terrified, her voice thin. He keeps texting me about the gala. He bought me a dress. He wants me to be there. Good, I said. You will be there. You will look stunning. And you will be my witness. And I'll be in the booth, Maya added, her voice a low growl. I told him the hotel's AV system was unreliable for our high-bandwidth demo. I told him I needed to run the entire presentation feed from my own secured server. He didn't even question it. He just said, "Great, you handle the tech. I'll handle the investors." The arrogance was staggering, but it got better. 3 days before the gala, Marcus came into the office. I was on my laptop, working on the real presentation. I quickly minimized it. "There's my superstar," he said, kissing the top of my head. He threw a USB stick on my desk. "Honey, you're the numbers genius. This is my financial presentation for the gala. It's good, but it's not. You know, it doesn't sparkle. Can you do your magic on it? Just punch up the graphs. Make it shine for me." He was literally asking me, a forensic accountant, to polish his fraudulent data. "Of course, darling," I said, picking up the drive. "I'll make sure it's perfect. I'll make it shine." I took his presentation, with its fake revenue streams and impossible projections. I copied it, slide for slide. The font, the color scheme, the corporate branding. I created a second identical deck. His first slide was titled InnovateX, the Future of Secure Data. My first slide was titled Project Liquidation, a Case Study in Corporate Fraud. His second slide was a chart of exponential user growth. My second slide was a detailed flowchart of the money, moving from the InnovateX payroll account to the Cayman Bank to Chloe's consulting firm. I embedded the audio files Chloe had sent me, the voice memos of Marcus, drunk and boasting. "The investors are idiots. They're so desperate for the next big thing they'll believe anything." She's just a cold fish. All work. She has no idea. Of course I love you, baby. You're the one I want to bring, not the accountant. Maya linked my presentation to the master control. When the time came, she would run my deck, not his. He would never even know until the first slide hit the screen. The plan was set, but I needed one final piece. I needed the full weight of his betrayal to land not just on his investors, but on him. I needed his foundation to crack. I looked at the original list of seed investors, the ones who had given him his startup capital. And there, at the top of the list, was the entry that had made this all possible. Richard and Eleanor, his parents. The transfer was for $250,000. The memo line, "Our retirement. We believe in you, son." They had remortgaged their home. I picked up the phone. I dialed their number. Eleanor answered on the second ring, her voice warm and cheerful. "Ilara, honey, how are you? We're getting so excited for the big night. That's why I'm calling. Eleanor," I said, pitching my voice to sound exactly like the dutiful, proud daughter-in-law. "I know Marcus is just swamped, but I wanted to make sure you and Richard understood how important this night is. He's planning a very, very big announcement. A surprise." "Oh, my goodness," she gushed. "Our boy, our genius boy. He really wants his original investors there," I continued, the words tasting like ash, but I pushed them out. "The ones who believed in him from day one. He told me he wants you and Richard front and center, to share in the glory. He would be absolutely crushed if you weren't there to see it." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," Richard shouted in the background. "We'll be in the front row, darling," Eleanor said, tears in her voice. "We are just so proud of him. He's finally getting everything he deserves." I hung up the phone. A cold, hard certainty settled in my stomach. "Yes, he is," I whispered to the empty room. "He absolutely is." It was the day before the gala, the proverbial calm before the storm. I was in my home office, at my clean, organized desk, the same desk where I had first heard the name Chloe. I was finalizing the slides for Project Liquidation. I was not just inputting data, I was curating a narrative. I adjusted the font size of the Cayman Islands routing number. I embedded the high-resolution screenshot of the Serenity Suite receipt. I timed, to the millisecond, the audio file of his drunken boasting. The door creaked open. I heard him before I saw him. He walked in, not with his usual manic, false energy, but with a quiet, almost sanctimonious calm, the relief of a con man who thinks he has successfully reached the finish line. He came up behind me. I locked my screen instantly. He slid his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder, staring at our reflection in the blank monitor. I did not lean into him, but I did not pull away. I became stone. "You know," he murmured, his voice soft. "After tomorrow, everything is going to change. I promise." I said nothing. "All this stress," he continued, squeezing my side. "All this scraping by, worrying about bills. It's all going to be over. I'm going to make everything up to you. Ilara, we'll go on that trip. We'll buy that house on the lake, whatever you want. I will make it all up to you." He looked sincere. He looked loving. He was the best liar I had ever known. I turned my head, just enough to meet his gaze in the reflection. I let a small, tired smile touch my lips. "I know, honey," I said, my voice a perfect replica of the weary, supportive wife. "I'm counting on it." He kissed my temple, satisfied. "I have to go prep my keynote," he said, and left the room. The second the door clicked shut, I unlocked my screen. My encrypted chat window was blinking. 2 new messages. The first was from Maya. "He gave me his final file. It's a joke. Just pretty graphs. I've already deleted it. Your presentation is loaded onto the secure server. I've rerouted the main feed to bypass the hotel's AV booth. When he hits next on his remote, he's advancing your slides, not his." He is completely locked out of the system. I'm in control of the feed. We are a go. The second message was from Chloe. He just sent me a new dress for the gala. It's a lot. He said he wants me to look like a star. He's picking me up. He's so full of it. I typed back. He's not picking you up. You will arrive separately. And Chloe, you are going to wear the dress he bought you. She replied almost instantly. What? It's trashy. You are going to wear the dress, I typed, my fingers striking the keys. You are going to wear the necklace. He bought you as an accessory. Tonight, you will be his accessory. He needs to see his investment walk into that room. There was a long pause. Finally, a single word. Okay. The pieces were set, but I needed the external pressure. I needed the final validating kill shot. I opened my email. 3 weeks ago, I had sent a small, completely anonymous data packet to the General Counsel of CyberSec Dynamics, Marcus's old company. The packet contained only 2 items: a copy of their proprietary source code from 2019 and the core algorithm of imitate. I did not need to include a note. I had been waiting for the response. It was in my inbox, having arrived at 4:30 in the afternoon. It was not from the General Counsel. It was from their head of litigation. To whom it may concern, your submission regarding a potential IP infringement has been escalated. Our internal investigation is now complete. We have confirmed a direct and willful theft of proprietary corporate assets. As this is an active criminal matter, we cannot comment further. We are dispatching legal representatives to Austin immediately to coordinate with local authorities and serve all relevant parties. They were coming, but they were aiming for his office, a rented P.O. box. They would miss the main event. I opened a new, secure browser. I found the direct email for the CEO of CyberSec Dynamics. I forwarded him the litigation email, and I added one line. He is not at his office. He is at the Omni Hotel, downtown Austin, tomorrow at 8 p.m. He is hosting a gala to sell your stolen code to your competitors. You can serve him there. I hit send. One last call. I dialed the number for a senior investigative reporter at the Austin Business Journal. I had been feeding her anonymous tips for weeks, building her hunger for this story. She picked up. Stone. Tomorrow, I said. 8 p.m., the Omni Hotel, the InnovateX Investor Gala. I'm on the press list, but they've been stonewalling me, she said, her voice sharp. Is this the fire? This isn't the fire, I said, looking at my finished presentation. This is the explosion. Bring a camera. Bring 2. I hung up. I stood up from my desk and walked to my closet. I pushed aside the gray wool suits, the sensible navy blazers, the modest dresses he liked. I reached to the very back. I pulled out the suit I had bought for myself when I made partner at Apex, a structured blazer with sharp, powerful shoulders, trousers tailored to perfection. It was crimson. It was not a party dress. It was a uniform. I laid it out, pressed and perfect. I was ready for battle. The Omni Ballroom was a symphony of corporate luxury, a glittering trap. Chandeliers dripped light onto a sea of expensive suits and cocktail dresses. Waiters, ghosts with silver trays, navigated the crowd, offering champagne and canapes that cost more than most people's groceries. This was the world Marcus had built, or rather, the set he had dressed. The investors, the tech bloggers, the local business leaders, they were all here, sipping, laughing, completely unaware that they were attending a wake. Marcus was not a man. He was a phenomenon. He was at the blazing epicenter of the room, a human gravity well of charisma. He was kissing cheeks, clasping shoulders, his voice booming with false sincerity. John, so glad you could make it. Senator, you're looking well. We have to talk. He was on. This was his masterpiece. And in the front row, seated at a table reserved for Founder's Circle, were Richard and Eleanor, his parents. They were beaming, their faces etched with a profound, almost painful pride. They looked at their son like he was a god, a genius who had spun their retirement savings into an empire. Eleanor clutched her small purse in her lap, her eyes glistening. They were his first and most deeply betrayed victims. I stood an inch to his left, his designated prop, the perfect, polished, supportive wife. My crimson suit was a slash of red in a sea of polite black and navy. I smiled. I nodded. I allowed him to place his hand on the small of my back. He didn't notice that my smile was a perfectly calibrated arrangement of facial muscles, devoid of all warmth. He didn't notice that I wasn't watching the investors. I was watching the clock on the far wall, and the main entrance. He leaned in, his breath hot on my ear, smelling of champagne. "Look at this, baby," he whispered, a possessive squeeze on my hip. They all showed up. They're eating it up. "You're amazing, darling," I murmured, my voice a perfect, hollow echo. I glanced to the back of the ballroom, high above the crowd, in the dark glass rectangle of the AV booth. I saw a single dark silhouette, Maya. She was at the controls. She was checking her mic. Then, a small stir near the entrance. The crowd parted. Chloe had arrived. She was wearing the dress. It was a lot, a shimmering silver, backless thing that clung to her like a second skin. It was the dress of a mistress, not a colleague. And there, blazing against her spray-tanned chest, was the diamond necklace. My necklace. She looked like a cheap, beautiful trophy. Marcus saw her. I saw him see her. I was talking to a chip design CEO, nodding politely, and I watched my husband over the man's shoulder. He thought I was distracted. He looked at Chloe, and his smile shifted. It became something greedy, proprietary. He gave her a slow, deliberate wink. A promise. I turned back to the CEO. "That's fascinating," I said, my voice not wavering for a fraction of a second. And then, I saw them. The main doors opened again, not with a flourish, but with purpose. Two men in dark, severe, $800 suits walked in. They did not go to the bar. They did not look for canapes. Their eyes scanned the room with a cold, predatory assessment. They were lawyers. They were my lawyers, in a sense. The legal team from Cybersec Dynamics. A few seconds later, another arrival. The reporter, Stone. She wasn't dressed for a gala. She was dressed for work, a cameraman in tow. They didn't check in at the press table. They skirted the edge of the room and began setting up in a dark corner, a perfect vantage point of the stage. The clock on the wall read 7:59. Everything was in place. The lights dimmed. A pre-recorded InnovateX logo, the one Maya had designed, swirled on the massive screen. A voice Marcus's "of course" boomed from the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, the future." The spotlight hit the stage. Marcus, his face glowing with sweat and triumph, bounded up the steps to a wave of applause. He took the podium, his arms raised like a victor. "Thank you," he shouted, his voice electric. "Thank you all for being here. What a night! What a night I look out at this room, and I don't just see investors. I see family. I see believers. You believed in a simple idea that data can be, and should be, truly secure." He paused. A perfect dramatic beat. "And today, the future of InnovateX is brighter than ever. Our projections are not just strong, they are revolutionary." He looked down at the front row, at his mother and father. "We have built this from the ground up, with integrity, with vision." He then looked directly at me. His smile was dazzling. "But I didn't do it alone. No man does. This company has a secret weapon, a rock-solid financial core, and to walk you through our incredibly strong financials, I'd like to bring up my partner, my financial brain, my beautiful wife, Alara." The applause swelled again. The spotlight swung from his face and hit me, a circle of blinding white. I stood up, my crimson suit feeling like armor. I buttoned the jacket. I smiled at my husband, and I walked toward the stage to present my findings. I walked up the polished wooden steps. The spotlight was hot. but my blood was cold. Marcus was beaming, the picture of the proud husband as he held the small black presentation remote out to me. I took it from his hand. His fingers were warm. Mine were not. I leaned in, close enough for the lapel mic to catch the sound. I kissed his cheek. "Thank you, honey," I said, my voice perfectly clear and carrying across the silent, expectant room. He stepped back, gesturing magnanimously toward me and the screen. I turned to face the audience. I faced the investors. I faced his parents. I took one, steadying breath, and I pressed the next button. The massive screen behind me flickered. It did not show Q4 financial forecasts. In stark, 72-point font, it flashed the title, Project Liquidation, a Case Study in Corporate Fraud. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the ballroom. I watched Marcus. His smile didn't fall. It froze, a horrifying, rigid mask of confusion. "Ilara," he whispered, but the mic wasn't on him. It was on me. I turned back to the audience. I used my apex voice, the one reserved for hostile boardrooms and federal depositions. "Good evening. My husband promised you a presentation on the financial health of InnovateX. I am here to present a forensic analysis of its terminal illness." I clicked. Slide 1. The flow. It was a detailed financial schematic. An arrow, labeled Richard and Eleanor's Capital $250,000, pointed to the InnovateX account. A thick, red arrow then pointed from that account directly to an undisclosed Cayman Islands bank. Act. I heard Eleanor, his mother, make a small, wounded sound, like a dying bird. Richard had gone pale, his hand gripping the tablecloth. "As you can see," I said, my voice cutting through the murmurs, "the seed capital was not used for operations. It was immediately diverted offshore." I clicked again. Slide 2. Operating expenses versus capital expenditures. The left side listed the consulting fees paid to Chloe Vickers, totaling $123,000. The right side was a high-resolution collage of her Instagram posts, time-stamped, the diamond necklace, the silk robe in my living room, the champagne in the Serenity Suite. "As you can see," I said, my voice dangerously level, the operating overhead for brand strategy was significant. That broke the spell. Marcus, his face a mottled purple, lunged for the podium. "Ilara, what the hell are you doing? Turn it off." He was screaming, but no one could hear him. Yet, from the AV booth high above, Maya hit a single switch. Suddenly, Marcus's voice, raw and panicked, boomed through the ballroom's sound system. "Turn it off! What is this? Shut it off!" The room exploded, but before anyone could move, a new voice cut through. He told me it was his bonus, Chloe. She was standing up from her table, wearing the silver dress, blazing with indignation. She grabbed a backup mic from a nearby table. "He told me it was his bonus. He said he paid all of you. He told me she was the one who was cold and crazy." Marcus turned, seeing her, his world imploding. You! Chloe held her phone up to the microphone. Suddenly, Marcus's own voice, drunk and boasting from that spa weekend, filled the air. "They're so desperate for the next big thing they'll believe anything. They're idiots. Just play the game." "Mr. Marcus," a third voice, sharp and authoritative, boomed from the center of the room. The two lawyers from Cybersec were pushing forward, holding legal papers high. "You are hereby served with a federal summons for the willful theft and attempted sale of proprietary intellectual property." His mother, Eleanor, finally let out a full-throated wail. His father just sat, staring, broken. And in the back corner, the red light of the reporter's camera was on, capturing every single second. Marcus was trapped, a wild animal, looking from me to Chloe to the lawyers. Security was finally rushing the stage, grabbing his arms. I looked at him, my husband, the man whose life was now over. I raised the remote. I clicked one final time. The last slide. It stopped all the noise. On the left, a screenshot of his confirmed one-way first-class ticket to Grand Cayman, departing the next morning. On the right, the front page of my divorce petition, filed that morning, stamped by the county clerk. I had used the highlight tool on one line. Grounds for dissolution fraud. He sagged, defeated, as security held him. I turned back to the podium. I looked out at the sea of shell-shocked faces, the flashing camera, the weeping parents, and the furious lawyers. And that, I concluded, turning my head to look at Marcus one last time, concludes my presentation. Are there any questions? I placed the remote control gently on the podium. I buttoned my crimson blazer. I walked past the wreckage, off the stage, and straight down the center aisle. I never, not once, looked back. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you are listening from, so please drop a comment below, share your thoughts, and let's connect. Please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and if you want to help this story be heard by more people, please hit that hype button to support us.